Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Hi, I'm well, thanks. I'm well. Yeah, nice to meet. I think we've met before. I'm trying to remember where.
Professor Nuria, you are muted.
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me now?
I was saying the last time it was in Barcelona where I was you there say hello and to say that we will meet Zoom.
Right. Yeah,
Remember?
I remember.
But before we have been twice in the Christine Evgen in the women's conference.
Oh, in the WIN? Is that the WIN conference?
Yes, I don't remember now where. It was in Rome or it's I remember.
Yeah, Rome and Paris, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well,
that's great. That's great. There we are.
How's my sound, guys? Is it okay? Because I'm in a hotel here in Brazil, in Porto Alegre. I'm not sure if the connection is strong enough.
You are very close.
You can hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you. It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Pedro is here with us now.
Hello, Raj.
Hi, Pedro.
Hello, Nuria.
Hola, Pedro. Hi.
So I have a question, Pedro. So I need to get to the airport here, and there's like thunderstorms, and it's looking a little. So I know we're supposed to go for 1 hour. Do you think I can end maybe 10 minutes earlier? Is that possible?
Yeah. I guess so. Let me think. We can figure out how. No problem.
Yeah. I don't want to disrupt the whole schedule here, but
you can answer quicker, and that's it. I am in the there in the north of Spain, Lloret de Mar. But I think it's okay. The listening, it's okay, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have okay. Thank you, Nuria. It's a pleasure to receive you here.
For inviting me.
Yeah, Professor Kabashi, Luis Ricardo Kabashi from Navarra. He was the first person that mentioned you for us. So it's a pleasure to have you both here with us.
Yeah, so many years with the research and all these things, huh? And seeing how companies are changing. That's incredible. Yeah. There we are.
This is Cassia also.
Hey,
who's
hello.
Translator?
It's Carolina.
Caroline is here with us. She is our translator. Yeah. Carol, could you give them the tip to put the translation, please?
Yeah, I already did that.
I forgot. She's in the place that only is speaking Portuguese. Pedro, Cassia, Raj, and Nuria, you should select interpretation here below and select English. Did you see a little globe here in the left space? Yes.
I don't see it.
Do you put English or Portuguese?
I don't see
you guys speaking in English should choose English, because we will translate to you in another place in Portuguese.
See that? I am in my iPhone. I don't see what you are saying. I should do something, or it's connect.
Oh, may not be on the phone, may not be available on the phone.
Yeah,
maybe a desktop only.
There is a little globe.
Yes,
maybe
I can hear you.
Have to choose more or something like this.
Interpretación. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I can
English,
hear you. Can you not hear me? Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
E a gente não escuta isso?
Ah, you mean to understand, Pedro? But the thing is that you, Pedro, are going to ask some questions that we have here, but also someone in the audience can or not.
Mas a gente vai estar falando em inglês.
The audience can ask questions or not?
Ah, então
Yes,
tá. A gente
but
fala em
they-
inglês normalmente, mas fica aqui do jeito que tá. Em português aqui.
Cássia,
The audience will receive the information in English and Portuguese. So
Tá,
if
eu
they have
faço que for mais
questions, we will
simples.
translate in English to
Eu
you
prefiro
here.
ir no inglês, que vai ficar muito confuso para mim. Prefiro todo mundo no inglês. Você
Perfect.
também, Paro? Você prefere em português?
everyone in English is better, is easier, it's too complex.
É que agora... Então, é melhor. É porque senão eu estou ouvindo muito baixo eles. Eu só escuto você bem. O Paro, por exemplo, eu escuto muito baixo. Isso.
We don't listen, Carolina. Is okay?
Então, a gente vai para o inglês.
Okay, so everyone on English, okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Time to go. How was the day? Many people connected?
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, it's been busy, but we've been receiving very good feedback. We just got like 350 in the morning, and I guess almost 320 in the afternoon as well. And hopefully now we're going to get more people. We had 2,000 enrolled people, but they're going to receive the records, right? So it's huge audience.
They will see that later, maybe some of them.
Yes, it's pretty usual for Brazilians.
And right now, Rony Meisler, the co-founder and CEO of Reserva, he's finishing the last panel. And then we start, and then we finish the day. You
Good.
go for the keynote speaker. So that.
Time to start is 9. Well,
No,
9 in
The sound is cutting out.
Oh,
What, Raj?
The sound is going in and out for me. I don't know, it might be my network connection here in the hotel, you know. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. I can hear you right.
See, you're a little freezing a little bit. It's a little choppy when you talk for me. So
I guess you were breaking a little. It's breaking to me, and also I hear some sounds with Nuri as well, but I can hear Pedro very well. I don't know.
unstable connection.
so it might be my, let me disconnect my phone and hope maybe that improves it. Hold on.
Okay.
Right.
What about you, Nuri? Are you good? Are you in a strong connection? How do you see it?
No.
You good?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
As if
Wait,
I was in Brazil.
See, have you been here?
I've been twice or 3 times, yeah, because we have our sister school there. The SAP sister school is ISE.
See. Wow,
And
very nice.
teaching there twice.
Okay, so
The Campus de Jordão,
very nice place.
also very interesting. An executive education program also there. It was for you winter. For me,
Wow.
it was summer. So I haven't got anything. I was really feeling. Yeah.
That's a Brazilian. Our winter time today is almost 33 degrees Celsius in São Paulo, just for winter. Yes, it's coming on summertime.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Pedro, you want to start?
Yeah, Cassia, Haji said that he needs to leave 10 minutes earlier. He needs to take an airplane. That's it. So what I thought, Cassia, was in the final, we finished before with Haj. Last question for him. And then we finish the session with Nuria. Okay.
Yeah, I just don't know if Gabi is just because they haven't finished the mainstream session yet. I'm waiting for them to give us the online go, because we cannot go if they don't give us a sign.
Okay, but I'm talking about the finish of the session.
Okay.
In our session, my suggestion is in the finish, we ask first Haj, so he can leave before Nuria, you know?
Okay, so just so we are on the same page, what time do you need to leave, Haj?
4:50.
Please. What?
10 minutes 5.
10 minutes.
4:50.
Oh, 4:50. Okay, 4:50.
Yeah.
Okay, 4:50 Brazilian time. Perfect. Okay, so then at 4:40 something, we give you the chance to close. And then we keep Nuria for the last question and audience questions. Would that be fine?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Let me see when they're good to go.
Gabi said that in 1 minute we start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
We start with you, Pedro.
Okay. Gabi, can you say for us when we are online, when we are live on the chat, please?
You are going live now.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you in the end of this session. Today, in this session, we have the honor to receive Professor Nuria Chinchilla from IESE, from Barcelona, and Professor Haj Sisodia, two well-known and honored professors worldwide that brings for us a global perspective about conscious business, purpose, how can we balance the female and the masculinity on business. Professor Nuria Chinchilla with Professor Haj Sisodia is a pleasure in name of Humanizadas to receive you both here. Me and Cassia will be hosting the session with both of you. So the first question that I would like to bring for both of you, today we are discussing themes like environmental, social, and governance, purpose, leadership, culture. There are a lot of words spreading. But first, I would like to hear more from your perspective. Like, how do you see the change on business from 5 years, 10 years ago? How you see the change that we are seeing on business right now, on our society? In your perspective, we are evolving or not? Are we having some regressions in consciousness levels, talking about leaders and business? This question is for you both, so you can start and give your perspective on that. Thank you. Nuria, can we start with you?
Yes, thank you. So for sure, Pedro, we are evolving, and we are evolving very positively. Much more after COVID, where everybody was very conscious that life was something else than just working 24, 7 days a week. So that's really a reality that we are seeing once and again in different companies, that they are wanting to first help people to find their the purpose of the company and purpose of the people, to really link them and make a synergy. And this is true also with the roundtable of the most important leaders in the United States, as you know, that they have said again that the person should be in the center of the company. So more and more they are at least talking about those, and some doing it. It's true that there are always some that they are not doing this, and some that they are going backwards after COVID, because they are not wanting to keep on, for instance, home office, telework, no? Because they are not able to manage by objectives. They are still managing by presence. So this is something that it's still, but the ones who are having better results are really changing very much the scope and the paradigm. It's in a much more anthropological paradigm. And they are more conscious of what they are doing and anticipating consequences of their actions.
That's very good. You know, we learn a lot from you. It's just a pleasure to have both of you together in this afternoon with all of us. I know you guys are working with the global economy, with global leaders, but I need to ask you, how do you guys see Brazil in the rise of this, even on the new economy itself, or if we talk about mainly the initiatives around ESG and so on. So how do you classify? Are we going on the same speed as the whole market? How do you see us from beyond or above? What would you like to share about the differences between all of us? Or even the similarities, right?
Well, I was going to answer Pedro's question first, but I don't know if you want to go to this question now. Pedro, would you like to first finish that?
Whatever you feel is your sense.
And then I'm happy to talk about Brazil as we go. I'm actually in Porto Alegre today, actually, and you know, had a wonderful session this morning. Yeah, so let me take Pedro's first question, you know, which was around the sort of bigger picture and the shift that has been going on. I don't want to just look at the last couple of years, just the COVID period, but I want to take it in a broader sense. You know, I think this change that we've all been part of, now we're 15 years ago that we started conscious capitalism in 2009, and my work really started in this area around 2004, right? So it goes back a while, and I was noticing at that time that we are going through a fundamental shift in society. And so what we are seeing today in the world is, in a way, a maturation of a phase, I believe, that I really mark it as starting around 1989. Now, some of you may remember, some of you may be too young, but 1989, I think, was one of the most important years in human history. And so much of what we now look at the world really became that way, I think, in 1989. The big event of that year, of course, was the bringing down of the Berlin Wall. Right now, for those of us growing up in the Cold War years, this was a very, very important and significant milestone, because that Berlin Wall was the defining debate of the 20th century between competing visions, competing ideologies of how do you organize human society, right? You had communism, socialism, government ownership and control of every aspect of our lives. And on the other hand, you had democracy and capitalism and freedom. Right? And that debate we thought would end with a nuclear war. I mean, everybody was convinced the world was divided in that way. Both sides were heavily armed. And of course, without a gunshot being fired, the wall was brought down. And like dominoes, you know, a dozen or more countries shifted their system towards free market capitalism, ending that defining debate. So, you know, when it was simply between communism and capitalism, you know, we only looked at mostly one flavor of capitalism. Capitalism was about freedom, but when we had no, you know, the other system had collapsed, then I think we started to think about what kind of capitalism, right? What are the elements? And different countries, you know, implemented or have been implementing different versions of that. So I think that, in a way, was the beginning of a bigger rethinking around capitalism. But that year was also interesting. Think about what else happened in 1989. You know, the Exxon Valdez oil spill happened in the US, in Alaska. And it awakened environmental consciousness on a mass scale that we had not seen actually in a very long time. Suddenly people became very, very aware and very concerned about the environment more so than before. It was also the year that there was a fatwa issued by the Ayatollah in Iran against Salman Rushdie for writing a book. And in a way, it marked religious fundamentalism as a force, in a way replacing economic fundamentalism in the world. 1989 was also the year that Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. Now, we didn't notice until 2 or 3 years later when we first started seeing the browsers and so forth, but the World Wide Web was also created in 1989. So these were some of the big events. Now, there were some smaller things that also happened that year. 2 of them I'd like to talk about. One is demographics. So in the US, the median age of adults has been rising, as it has in most countries around the world, because of the aging of the population, longer life expectancy, a lower birth rate. That year, 1989, we marked the first time when we had more adults over 40 than below. And 40 marks midlife. And midlife really marks a turning towards meaning and purpose. That midlife crisis is a real thing. It's a crisis of meaning and purpose, right? So you had more and more people that were becoming hungry and looking for some kind of meaning and purpose in their life. And 1989, in a way, was a demographic tipping point towards that. And then related to what Nuria talks about, which I'm also passionate about, is that that was the first year that we had more women college graduates cumulatively than men, right? Women have been outnumbering men in college like 60 to 40 for quite some time now, but it used to be the other way around. But by 1989, the total number of women in the United States with college degrees exceeded the number of men. And that has continued now to accelerate in that direction. And so we had more of the feminine energy, feminine values coming into the culture. So there were all these changes, mega changes from a historic perspective that were happening. Of course, so we became more connected because of the telecom revolution, the wireless revolution. We becoming more educated, we're better informed because of the World Wide Web, and we're becoming more intelligent. And that's a long-term trend that's been going on for at least 80 years. Our IQ is rising 3 to 4% a decade. And so all of this reflects, I think, the evolution of human beings at a rapid rate. Things are changing very, very fast. And so we write in Firms of Endearment that this was the beginning of what we call the age of transcendence, age of going beyond just the material things that we had focused on in business and in life in many ways. And now we're starting to look at meaning and purpose and impact and transcendence and legacy. And of course, we became more conscious of the big challenges like climate change, etc. as well. So I think all of that created the fertile ground for the kinds of movements that we have been part of, right? That we needed to think more broadly about life in general and business in particular, that just like we are hungry for purpose, likewise business needs to have a purpose, etc. So I think those are some of the, I would say, mega or meta drivers of some of the big changes that we have been seeing in the last 3 decades. And there were other indicators of our rising consciousness, the end of apartheid in South Africa, the embrace of rights for gay people, for example. These are all signals of higher consciousness happening at a society level. And I think that's part of the continuing trend that we're seeing here.
Great. We can, for those who are listening to us, you can hear us on English or Portuguese. Those are listening us, you can choose whatever you prefer. And you also can bring us questions, so you can share the questions with Nuria and Raj. Right now, I guess we could go with the question from Cassia, from Brazil perspective.
Do you mind to rephrase the question? So I think in a nutshell, I was going to ask you about how do you guys see Brazil in the global scenario, and then on the rise of this new economy and the whole thing around the multi-stakeholders capitalism and all the steps that we've been appreciating on the transformation of the capitalism. What would you mention around that?
Do you want to start, Raj?
Please, you go ahead, Maria.
Well, I think Brazil is so big that you have everything you want there. And there are plenty of marvelous companies and plenty of others that are contaminating. in the human side. So they are not treating people so well. So we have everything in a so big country, but I think the evolution, the maturing of people is being very quick, and more is people who are deciding where to go to work, not as much the company, no? So to decide who's working with me. We are having problems also in Europe, but you in Brazil too, to find the right talent. And that's why it is clear that the conscious capitalism, where Raj has been working for so long, is very clear, engaging very rapidly and very strongly in mostly in big companies, but not only, also in some medium and small companies. As he said, it's not only conscious, but transcendent, because only conscious, it's not enough. We have to talk about transcendency, and I think this is what is going on more and more, also in Brazil. Raj?
Yeah, so I've had a long relationship with Brazil. I first came in 2010 to speak about funds of endearment with the company here, the grocery retailer, the retailer Pau de Açúcar, Abilio Diniz, and so there was early indication that there was something in the message of what we were talking about that was very appealing to Brazilians, and I think that has continued. And of course, our chapter started 10 years ago here in Brazil, just celebrating the 10th anniversary, and it was one of our. It is actually our most significant international chapter that we have anywhere. We have 11, I believe, sub-chapters across the country in different cities, and many different programs and activities that this chapter has been doing at every level, from companies to startups to entrepreneurs to students, even doing some work in the favelas in Sao Paulo and so forth. So I think part of it is there's a receptivity here to this message. I think there's a more heart-based culture. I find that Anglo-Saxon capitalism, American-style capitalism is much more head-based and wallet. It's the mind and the wallet, right? It's analytical, it's numbers, and it's efficiency, and it's about the bottom line. And I find that in many parts of the world, there is more of a connection to the heart and soul in general, and I feel that the Latin cultures definitely embody that. I think I've tried to understand why conscious capitalism has spread so much more in Latin countries, in Spanish and Portuguese speaking countries. And I think there's something maybe there. It's my guess. No, it's not a scientific thing, but I believe that there's a heart connection there. And I do believe that's important, because if you look at traditional business education, the way, again, it's all originated mostly in the US, right? I had 2 years of MBA, 4 years of PhD. I was never inspired in those 6 years, and I was never moved emotionally by anything that I learned. And yet business is this incredibly rich and multifaceted thing that impacts every aspect of our life. And how do we leave emotions and inspiration out of that, right? So it was only when I was writing Forms of Endearment that for the first time I felt my heart touched in that research and writing some of those stories, literally to the point of tears. So I believe there's something there across Latin America, including Brazil, that responds to that. Now, Brazil, of course, is one of those giant countries that feels like they've always been the country of the future. And somehow they go, and then something happens, and then they go, and something happens. It's just like a roller coaster ride with Brazil. I feel like right now, again, it's on an upswing. After being on a pretty severe downswing for a few years. But I've always been a big believer. First of all, as Nuria said, it's a big country, big population, huge land mass. You've, of course, got the natural resources of the planet that are so critical, the Amazon rainforest, of course, and being the stewards of that on behalf of all life, all humanity, is an important role. Every country has its role to play in the world. And Brazil has that one as a very significant role that it has to play. And I've been very encouraged. I was today with the company called CMPC, which is a large forestry products company it's actually based in Chile, but they have a huge number of operations here. And they've invested $6 billion just in this part of Brazil, basically producing pulp, and wood products, and doing so in a very, very sustainable way. Normally we associate those kinds of businesses with damaging the environment, but they're doing it in a way that is highly sustainable. They are number 2 on Dow Jones sustainability, index in their industry, and doing a lot of other wonderful things for the community and for their people and the diversity and all the rest of it. So, and as an example, again, not a purely Brazilian company, but with large operations here. They said we're from Chile, but we feel like a Brazilian company, and I think that's a good way to think about it. And so, yeah, I think that Brazil does have a major role to play in the future, and I almost feel between the conscious capitalism chapter here, Pedro's work with all the companies that he has been studying with Jimenez, that I think we have an opportunity here to create a tipping point ahead of other places in the world. That, this is already, I think, pretty well known in the culture and the language of Brazil. People have heard about it. And I think there's a way that we can make this the default operating system for Brazilian companies. And that would be great as a showcase for the world, but also great in terms of showing how to do it. Right? And what are the advantages and benefits when you do that? Of course, the need is also very great over here, right? Income inequality, rise of poverty has actually been increasing in recent years here and in many other countries. So I think there's an opportunity here to show what business can be, and what it should be.
It's lovely to hear you both. Raj mentioned the tipping point, and Nuria had mentioned the paradigm shift after COVID. And for me, this is the critical thing here, is that this wake up, this wake up call. And here you both, Nuria and Raj, I guess thinking on how many research papers you have read, books, talks, discussions, how much I'm feeling, how much knowledge, collective intelligence you both has and have shared. And something that I'm thinking of is like, I really don't believe that any leader, any business woke up at Monday and wants to do harm for someone. I don't think no one wants to do harm for someone, but some companies and some people do harm for other people, and basically because they don't know what they are doing, and I think there's always an elephant on the room that people are not seeing, are not understanding. So my question for you both, for Nuri or Raj, who wants to start here, first, thinking now about business, what is a successful business for you? How can we define a successful business? And what leaders need to understand? What is the elephant on the room for business had more thriving business,
Well, leaders have to understand that people are not islands in an ocean. All of us is a member of a family. So we have to take into account that this person is with us 8 hours or more, and after leaving the office or the factory, has to run home to have time, energy, and money to build a family. We have dependents, elder or younger, and we have, if not this type of family, we have friends, we have hobbies, we have every type of things that we have to do. We have to rest, we have to, etc., to make sports. Then this is something that the leaders have to understand. And sometimes the so-called leaders are not leaders, they are just managers, because they are not aware of what leading means. To lead is to develop relationships of trust with people. The better you can develop these relationships of trust, the better leader you are. Then what is a business? A business is an organization of human beings with a purpose. And of course, it has to be sustainable. To be sustainable, we have to have results, financial results. But to be sustainable means we need to have these people also wanting and enabling them to keep on doing things. So not contaminating them, but oxygenating them in the systems we have, in the styles we use, in the values and not counter values that we are living in that company. The values, the real values, are not the ones we have on the wall, but the criteria we use in the decision-making process every day. We take into account the transcendency in the everything I do is transcendence because it's impacting others. May I have this into account or not? And this is the real difference between a leader and someone who's just managing. To be short, Raj, please.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. You know, Pedro, you know, I've thought about this question, what is the elephant in the room? And to me, the elephant is the suffering that is caused. Inadvertently, as you point out, business leaders are not psychopaths and they're not looking to hurt anybody. But there's a blind spot, right? And we don't see it. What we see is, yeah, people doing their jobs and getting a salary, and we're producing products and we're creating wealth for investors and for society. And all those are good things. But at the same time, the way in which we lead, manage, and organize actually causes suffering in the world. You know, Nuria talked about what the impact on the family. Of course, that's a big one, but there are other forms as well. We know that we're living through an epidemic of burnout. We know that anxiety, depression, drug addiction, all these things are on the rise in many, many countries, right? And so the fact is that even if we don't intend to cause suffering, but if we do not consciously choose to be part of the healing, we will probably end up causing suffering. So we have to open our eyes to what is really happening in people's lives. And as James Baldwin said, you know, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So we need to face up to what is the real impact of the way we operate on people, on their children, on their families, on their communities, on the future generations, on other species, etc. And what you find there is an extraordinary amount of suffering. As I said, you know, globally employee engagement is only 20-some%. So that's a kind of suffering when your work is meaningless and becomes a drudgery. But more than that, heart attacks are 20% higher on Mondays in the US and in the UK. I have data from other places, but I'm sure it's somewhat similar. Every place we have similar cultures. 120,000 Americans die from from stress connected to work, and 600,000 Chinese die from too much work every year. You know, in fact, they had to invent a new word that means death from overwork. And so these are some of the human costs that we inflict in the process of doing business. And many people may say, well, you know, that's life, you know, work is hard and you can't achieve something without suffering. And I don't agree with that. I think there's some kind of suffering that is unavoidable, but there's a lot of avoidable suffering that is inflicted by humans on other humans and on other life forms, other species, out of ignorance or apathy, right? So in this book, The Healing Organization, of course, we look at that idea and we say you don't have to hurt people, you don't have to kill people to make money. In fact, the opposite. If you create a place which is nurturing, which is caring, which is inspiring, right, and purposeful, and you do all these things in the right way, then in fact, business itself becomes a healing activity. People can be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually stronger at the end of the day than when they came in the morning. So they have all this energy and all this love to give to their family, you know, as well. And so I think that is a big, big shift in the way of thinking about this. And I've come to believe that this is not about saying we need more healing businesses like, you know, therapy centers or wellness centers. This saying business itself can be a healing act. Because what is business? It's us taking care of each other. It's us meeting each other's needs. In a free society, governments don't do that, right? Businesses are out there to help us fulfill our various needs. And if you do that with a loving, caring energy, that actually heals people. When I make you whole in that dimension, that's a way of healing you. But if I use business as a way to use people to make money for the owners, then I'm going to end up probably causing suffering for customers, for employees, etc. So the same work can be done in a way that causes suffering or in fact brings about healing for the people who work at the company, and then the people we serve, our customers, right? Can we focus on their quality of life and their well-being, not just getting them addicted and hooked on, you know, junky food and bad things, and, you know, and giving them messages about what they should buy and how they should live in order to feel happy. But, you know, it's all false. So how do we make sure that we're actually having a positive impact? We're healing our customers, we're healing our employees, and we're even healing our society, right? Because we can show how we come together despite all our differences. So I think those, to me, are some of the big things that we can do as businesses. And once you start to look at it that way, I've seen many companies that are quite conscious and very successful. And when they started to look at this question, they said, oh my God, I had no idea that there was so much suffering within our employees, especially the front line. You know, the people not in the executive offices, but in the stores and the warehouses, in the factories. What is their life like? You know, and how challenging, how difficult it is, and how often their life gets derailed. Even with a small thing that happens, your car breaks down or your child gets sick, suddenly you have a crisis and you can't survive it. So there's so much stress and anxiety that people are living with, and financial problems as well. And so we have to commit to, first of all, seeking out where is their suffering and then trying to heal it. And then providing ways for people to bring more joy as well. The other side of suffering is joy. We don't just stop with stopping suffering. We actually want business to be a joyful thing, right? When you love what you do and you love the people you work with and you love the people you serve, it is a source of joy. And so that, I think, is what we can create here. That, to me, is the next stage of evolution of a conscious company, is to actively seek out ways in which we can reduce suffering in the world. And by the way, I haven't even talked about the animals, right? We are killing, I don't know, 70 billion animals or something like that every year. And after we torture them in factory farms, right? And that is a lot of suffering that is happening because of our appetites. And that, I don't think, is acceptable, and it's unconscionable. We have to, we have to do everything in a more humane way than we have been doing in the past.
Many years ago, I started with a new construct, which is social pollution. And maybe you remember Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer from Stanford University.
Oh, yeah.
He wrote the book Dying for a Paycheck. And he was trying.
That's what I quoted. Yeah, the 120,000 comes from that. Yeah.
This was after having, well, we met, we talked about social pollution. He loved very much the idea, and he said, I will put the numbers here. No? So social pollution, we know, and Raj says very well, we have to put love in companies. And maybe something that we are not talking about too much. And this is the rule of law and the rule of gold, no golden rule. And then when we talk about sustainability in our programs, we also open eyes to our participants, also in ISE in Brazil and in Sao Paulo, and also in ISE Business School. We talk about the triangle of sustainability. And we talk about, first, to be sustainable, we have to be sustainable. We have to integrate our lives. So we are in the center of a triangle in constant evolution, this business, the work, family, and social. And then every time we make a decision here or there, we are changing ourselves for the good or for the worse. We can be breathing oxygen and expelling CO2, or the other way around, making photosynthesis like plants in the night. No? And then depending on how we are doing this, everything is changing. So when we talk about we are in the changing time, a change of era, okay, that's true. But every one of us, every person is making this change in the zone of influence we have, which is very, very big, and many times bigger than we think. No? So in our programs, we are listening to people that say, thank you for opening our eyes, because now I see what I have done wrong. No? And I said, well, that was before knowing. Now that you have to do it better. No? And they say, yeah, I will try. So this is something that we are seeing. It's changing, as Raj was saying. They are changing, more sensitive.
This is great. You guys are giving lots of hooks, but I have to get one of that, talking about big shift in the society, talking about bringing love to the suffering in the work environment. So I have to bring something from your point of view. So what are the main challenges that women still face in the business world today? And how can we overcome them in order to bring more equity and female, especially female and male leadership? Because we've been talking about C-level, we've been talking about board of directors, but I mean, it's less than 2 digits of us, I would say in Brazil, 5% that we see on the very top. So how do you guys see this? And I guess if we bring more of this Shakti leadership to the work environment, we would add more love, more of this, whatever, joy or the motherhood feeling. And so I would love to hear from you, your thoughts around that.
Absolutely. Maybe Raj, if you have less time, or you
No,
prefer
go
me?
ahead, go ahead. Why don't you speak and then I will give my thoughts
Okay.
on that.
So the first thing we have to underline is that we are different. The problem is that we have entered in a world thought by men for men in the last century, and it's as if a handed right-hand person comes into a left hand. So it's very difficult to enter. So many of us have mimetized men, which is terrible because then we are not good masculines nor good feminines. So first, we are different from the very beginning. The embryo in the first weeks have a bath of hormones, and then our brains are different, not only organic, but also in functioning. The right and left hand are less connected in men than in women, and that's why we are communicating much more, and they are more to efficacy, no? And this is great. It is not better or worse. It is different, and thanks God, we are then complementary and synergetic. That's what we have to think once and again. 1 + 1, it's not 2, it's 22. In the family, in the company, in the society, wherever, no? Then we need flexibility, of course, because without flexibility, the motherhood cannot enter there. The second, discrimination is mostly by motherhood, as you know, in our research is always so. And we have the glass ceilings, which is what others think about women, or also women, the unconscious bias, many times judging differently the same behavior in a man or a woman. But then also there are concrete ceilings, what I call concrete, which are the ones we put ourselves on the shoulders. And this is very difficult really to crush. No? First, a low self-esteem. It has to do with comparison with men again. So we have learned many, many things from men. Then maybe it's time for men to learn something from feminine side, no? But self-esteem is low, then we'll delegate less because we think we are doing it faster and better. We negotiate very, very badly for us, very good for others. This has to be also to take it into account, the self-esteem, and also to reconcile work and family, which is priorities. It's also a concrete ceiling many times because it's very difficult to do it. No, but it's time to go. I think to say that the 21st century, and we are now in the 23 year, will be feminine or will not be, because we need the feminine traits, and feminine traits are much more humanizing, much more empathetic, much more team building, much more anticipating consequences, much more long-run vision. So being in the details, no? So all this is humanizing environments. And it is true that many times they say no, because the woman is not ambitious. And I say, come on, my first book, and 20 years ago, it was about female ambition, because they asked me to write something about feminine values. And I said, no, this is not going to be read, not even by my mother, who's a saint and reads everything, but no. Female ambition will be better, because then everybody will read it. And really, we are much more ambitious many times than men. Men want to arrive to a CEO company, that's it. We want to arrive if possible, but if not, but having a family, having friends, having etc. No, social life. So what can we do? So many things, as we know. All the glass ceilings is also pedagogy. We have to have also pedagogy to understand. Also in the big picture, I mean, in the politicians, they have to have politics that are open-eyed, open, to understand that we are different, and we have to have different laws many times, different policies for different realities. And then this is something that it is not yet in our reality. When I was in the United Nations, I was a representative of Spain for the CEDAW. CEDAW is the Committee Anti-Discrimination for Women. In the 2012, my program was the 3 Fs. We need 3 Fs as 3 criteria for every decision-making process in politics, in business, and to have a sustainable society. The first was femininity, because there was too many years with the feminine eye closed. Then we cannot focus well, not even with one, masculine or feminine. We have Christine Lagarde at that time said, no, Lehman Brothers has crashed because they were just Lehman Brothers. And I said, come on, it is not true, because if Lehman Sisters, maybe they didn't start, no? The thing is Lehman Brothers and Sisters together to become the leadership synergetic. But, okay, feminine. The second is the F, the feminine I. The second is the family. We are not islands. We have to take into account the family. And third is the flexibility. Without flexibility, we cannot manage anything, not even a plant. So a family, a person with different moments. No? So this is very important to take it on, because these 3 Fs gives us 6 Cs, which make us sustainable. The feminine point of view brings us to the caring, which is very typical potentially for every woman. The caring economy, the caring, and more interesting now than ever. We need that. The second C is the complementarity, which brings the synergetic, and the F of family brings us to co-responsibility. If we live in a family, we have time and energy, we will develop competencies, which are the soft skills we need in the labor market, and also the co-responsibility of men and women, building a home. And the third, the flexibility. If you treat people with flexibility, they will bring you trust, which is confidence, no? And also commitment, which is something we all want. No? The commitment, so the 6 C's necessary for being sustainable and for being really happy. No, so thank you. I am too long now, Raj. Sorry.
Thank you.
Well, that is beautiful, Maria. Thank you. And should I just conclude on that thought as well? Because of course, as you know, I'm a passionate believer in that this is the problem at the root of all many of the other problems, that we have excluded the feminine. And I broaden that to we've excluded women, definitely, but we've also downplayed feminine energy in general. And yeah, there are differences between genders, but the fact is all of us have both sides, right? Every man has an inner woman, every woman has an inner man, as Carl Jung said. And so we have suppressed the feminine side. So even in a world with too many men as leaders, we can still bring in the feminine energy if they are open, if their hearts are open. And that's something that we have to also do, connect men to their caring side. As Martin Luther King said, we must be tough-minded and tender-hearted at the same time, whether you're a man or a woman, right? We are capable of that. So I think that is the big shift that needs to happen in the world. I was told a few years ago, working with a coach for the first time, when she told her about my work and my background and my life and so forth. And she said, I was turning 60 that year. And she said, do you realize that you spent 45 years trying to impress your father by achieving the worldly, the power, success, title, money, etc., etc. But now you spend the last 15 years honoring your mother with your work. That all of this work, firms of endearment, conscious capitalism, everybody matters, etc., Shakti, of course, is really trying to honor that mother energy. And this is what is missing. Right? In any human endeavor, you need father energy and mother energy. And we have left out the mother energy from the world of business, from the world of government, from politics. All of those arenas have been dominated by men with masculine energy. Hence all the conflict, right? All of the damage. We are destroying Mother Earth. Why? Because we don't honor mother energy enough, right? So I think to me, that is the ultimate goal here. How do we honor mother energy alongside? This is not discarding father energy or the healthy masculine, but this is saying let's have healthy masculine and healthy feminine together, right? In men and women. So have more women and also the men being connected in that way. I think that would just create almost nirvana in the world, in our businesses and in society, if we're able to bring in a healthy way both of those dimensions. So that's my concluding thought. I do have to leave. My call is coming in now. I have to get to the airport. So very nice to be with you. And I'll see you all again soon.
Thank you, Raj. See you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So in this sense, my last book is Hand in Hand by the best she, no? And the idea was that she is saving human ecology. I was talking about saving human ecology because when Al Gore started talking about ecology, I said, well, so many millions with the ecology, but what about human ecology first? Because if we save human ecology, the humans will save the planet. but not the other way around, no? So it's interesting to understand all these, what's first, what's second, what's third, no? And also, when I started with all these things, I said, we have to give data and we have to make pedagogy to politicians. How have we started with the C-level here in Spain? When I started in 2002, there were only 2% of women in the boards of directors of the IBEX. Now we are in 33% without quotas. There was a law, but it's without sanctions, so no quotas, no? And finally, now there will be quotas, but when we are enough mature, otherwise that will be as in India. I don't know whether you know, in India, they started with quotas, 40% compulsory. And in few months, they had 40% of women in the boards of directors. Of course, this is comply and lie, because they have the spouses of the men in the boards of directors. No, it's much better to understand that if we do things better with flexibility, with family corporate responsibility, which is what I've been using many times to understand that, to give some data, we have more than 400% more commitment of people, employees who are in an oxygenating environment. That means family corporate responsibility, to have into account the family, the flexibility, good styles, and good systems and values. Then in the same company, people who are in another department without this corporate family responsibility, no? And this was very interesting for the companies and also for the politicians to start doing things different, also with laws. No? So this is pedagogical also. Please.
We are getting to the end of our session and our day of our summit, but I guess we have more questions. We can have more 2 questions, Cassia?
Yes, we can. I think we still have 5-7 minutes.
Okay, so Nuria, my last question for you. After then, we have Cassia questions. I always get excited about histories, spiritual histories, and I guess we learn a lot about examples. So I would ask you to share with us one case, one history of a person or a company that for you is inspirational. So we can have hope in the future of humanity. So we can have hope in the future of capitalism.
Okay. Well, there are so many, there are so many, but more than big ones, because we can have many big ones that you know, no? Companies like Johnson & Johnson, that are very, very good ones since many years ago, because they were flexible from the very beginning and they wanted to do things well, not only because they were more humanistic, but because they wanted to have better results. And that's what we have to have always together. No, it is not just because we are philanthropy, no, because we want to become sustainable. That means to have results. No? But then there are also small ones, no? And then you can have companies that in the moments of problems, when they have to decide whether to fire people or not to fire, they have decided not only not to fire, but to share with all of them how we can do it better. And then when they have decided that they have this problem and we had to fire 15 people, and what if instead of firing these 15 people for the next 3 years, we have a reduction of our salary, and then after 3 years we will see what happens. And this was what they did. This was a retail company, a big one. And they did that, and this was absolutely uniting everyone for the rest of their lives, because they saw that for them, these were people, real people, and not just individuals. Then this was one of these examples that I love to remember. As persons, there are also people who have been, as you know, investing everything they have until they were bankrupt. No? This is something that I don't like, because this has not rationale. I say always that we have 3 types of motives: the extrinsic, to make decisions. No? The extrinsic, I expect someone to give me something. Intrinsic, well, that's what I love to do it. It's intrinsic, myself. But then the transcendent, what is the impact in others? Then the transcendency has to be rational, not just spontaneous, because spontaneous is not virtue and it's not sustainable again. So we have to see examples which are motivation, rational motivation by transcendent motives. No? This is the idea.
Well, Nuria, you've offered so much. I mean, everything you said was so inspirational to me and to all of us. So first of all, thank you very much. I guess we're coming to the end. And so I guess final thoughts you would share with us in the line of bringing hope and also in the balance of profit, growth, and also sustainability. So what would you leave us with, like for the new generations that are coming? And what would you expect people like me or like you, I mean, people who have more senior, more than 25 years of leadership, what would you leave us with a role model to the new youngest generation coming?
Well, the thing that we have to do, all of us, is once and again, no, to the knowledge of oneself first, to think and to be inspired by our purpose, no, to find the mission. What is my mission here? Why I'm here? And then that means that I know very well my competencies, my incompetencies, my values, my counter values. And finally, I can see which is my contribution. What can I really contribute with and where? And then have very clear that the work is always winning the family or the personal life, because work is entering every vacuum we have in the diary. And that means that, well, it is always sanctionable, or we have also incentives, and family is comprehensive, no, is understanding. Then we have to have a very clear priorities and very clear the law of the 2080, where I am really indispensable. 20% of my tasks, it's only me who have to do it in the family, as a spouse, as a mother, as the daughter of a widow, etc. No, but also in the company, 20% are mine, and in the voluntary, okay. But 80% is delegable within the home, within. So to find this 20% and put them in the diary, and all the other thing, let it go. Huh? It's so important to really be masters of your destiny, no? Or be masters of our destiny, which is the title of the book, Masters of Our Destiny. We wrote 20 years ago. This is very important. Otherwise, we are not free. We are just slaves of a system which is running, and we behind that. No? Then to put rationale, to see where we are really indispensable, where we can contribute. And then if we are leaders, not only at home, but also in other places, try to be authentic. We need to be very coherent. What we think, what we do, what we speak. This is the most important thing to become really a leader and to keep on being a leader. Because again, this leadership means trust. And if you want people to trust us, first, I have to trust myself. And when we talk about reconciling work and family, I don't like reconciling, because to reconcile is to put in common enemies, no, and to put in peace. No. Family and work are not enemies. Then I prefer to talk about integrating life. One line, integrating life, no, work, family, personal life, one line, and then one mission, and then that will operationalize in different moments, depending on my diary, where I have to decide, not others have to decide. But the people who haven't done these two exercises, who am I and where I am going, the life is plenty of crises, because they are puppets of the environment. They don't know when to say yes, when to say no, and everything is interesting. No. This is not for me. Thank you. This is not for me. Oh, yes, this is. No? So I think if leaders could do these exercises and understand that the motivation, this is the real problem with bad leaders, is that they don't see what they are doing wrong. I'm sure that nobody is wanting to do wrong things, but if they are doing badly, it's because they don't see. And then to open their eyes to know that every time we make decisions, we are learning for the good or for the worse. If we are making decisions more for the extrinsic motive, we are more and more close to me, for me, with me. We don't see others. And we think that others are like me, just me, for me, or the others also in extrinsic. No? This is not true. Then you cannot lead others with a motivational structure broader than yours. If you are just in the intrinsic motives, very, very strong in your decision-making processes, well, again, me, for me, because this is what I like, what I feel, okay, but this is shortening your view. Open, please. You cannot focus. Then finally, if you are transcendent in the rational way, you can see others in a more complete way. And then you are leading people in a much more real world, real way. And finally, you are really learning positively because you are seeing people one after the other, persons different, with different circumstances, with different needs, and then you lead. Because otherwise you just see functions. Extrinsic or intrinsic is, how can I instrumentalize you for you to give me what I want? And this is negative learning. More and more you negative learning, because motivationally speaking, heart and mind seems to be half meter away. But now we know, neuroscience says that everything is here. In the head is the mind and the heart. So everything that is moving us to do something, if it's extrinsic or intrinsic, just it's putting us in, like a blind in our eyes, and it's the lenses we have dioptries that don't let us see the reality in complete way. That's what I say, negative learning. But if I start doing things for others, maybe at home, maybe in the company, maybe in society, then I start looking at people, real people, in a broader sense, and that's positive learning. So this is something that we are explaining once and again in our case method in the business school, and I love, because when they see that in a case, they say, wow, what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And then they start thinking, I will try to do something different. No? So this is my hope. My hope is that in the education, in good business schools, I think we have more and more this anthropological point of view, this cosmovision, broader, this paradigm. And well, this now is on fashion. It was not 60 years ago when we started at the ES Business School. Well, we were talking things that they say, are you sure? But now people are with hunger of understanding what we are saying and really learning something good. So I think we are in a very hopeful moment, but it is in our hands. Every one of us has something to do, and I hope this chat has been useful for that. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Nuria.
Thank you. It was awesome. Thank you very much for sharing those beautiful words. I guess we're all very inspired about everything you said. And so it's with broken heart that I have to say that we have no more time. We'd love to be with you the whole evening. And I hope you'll be back with us on the stage for next events and so on. And then I encourage all of you to read your book as well, and then to be able to follow you on the social networks, because you have beautiful content as you share as well. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you. So at the stage now, I would be calling Diego back. Diego, you have the floor, and we'll be joining them on the other one so that we can close together. Do you want to speak something?